Okay, Kak, he's here.
Okay, guys, so welcome to the semi-final round, room 2, Gobate 2021 here.
Yeah.
So we have Satu Mataram B as the government, and we have SMA Kusuma A as the opposition. To open the debate,
I'm sorry, Kak. We are the government while the Sman
okay.
is opposition.
Oh, ketukan. Okay. So Kesuma A will be the government and Satu Mataram B as the opposition. So upon the case, please welcome the first speaker of the government side of the house. He here.
Okay, can I just turn off my camera since our school's Wi-Fi is bad? So yeah. Wait, timer. I prefer POI. Just unmute your mic and say POI, but setting up my timer first. Right. Starting in 3, 2, 1. Panels, we're living in a world where language is a fundamental thing, the basic thing in this world. Language, as we all know, as the platform to communicate since the first age of the humanity, since the very first place. Every humankind in this world has a different language. Their mother tongue is totally different, especially in its continent, such as like South America speaks a totally different language comparatively to ASEAN, even though some country has a similarity towards its language like Malaysia and Indonesia. One thing we know, one thing we realize is that language is a basic thing, right? The way you communicate to your mom, papa, to your girlfriend or boyfriend, and how you learn or study in the schools. Even though you study math or science, you still need the language to understand the lessons. We're living in a world where there's such many kind of language like Spanish, Arabic, English, like even like English, there's like Australian English, British English, American English, and etc. And we're seeing that there's a lot of problem because of the language, such as racism and discriminations because of the language. Sometimes people underestimate you if you can't speak English properly, like for instance, like when your grammar is unstructural, your pronunciation is bad, and something like that. And we can take example like how the people mock Jokowi because when they say that how can president can speak English properly? Like looking also when you masterly speak foreign language, for instance, that there's a lot of people who mocking you because they thought that you're flexing on them, and also there's a narrative saying that you are so English, you're not nationalism or etc. Also, we're living in a world where so many people who has no like enough money or the capability to learn the other language besides their own language. The opposition might be saying that, oh, there's a 7 years old kids who can mastering like 11 language, for instance, but they forget that there are millions of people out of there who struggling to even know what to learn the others language, like, or even they struggle to know their own language. Maybe some people has the potential, or they, like they're easy to understand, they're easy to accept some like different language in their brain, but it's not meant for everybody. Since we are know the characteristic of the language, it has its own difficulties. Like Mandarin is much harder than the Thai language. Also, every language has its own formula, like SPOK, Indonesia, like subjek, predikat, objek, terangan, or something like that. And it's different with the Arabic, Spanish, or even English. It has a different structure. Like so, we as the government side of the house, we believe that it's harming people who don't get the capability or the privilege to speak the foreign language, for instance. So we as the government want to rewire the human brain to speak in the one common language. We're going to program one default language, and in this case is English. From the technology we have, then we'll set it on the human brain. So there's no such thing like struggling to learn about the foreign language in the schools or even in the real or even in the society and etc. Our goal here is so simple. We just want to create a world where the easier accessibility is achieved. Like there's no such a big wall that prevent us to get what we deserve. In this case, is the language. Looking in the status quo right now, where people can speak, where people are teach many languages, like the foreign language is teach in every school. Like I'm on class bahasa, I got two. Even I learn English, but I got two different lessons. The first one is English wajib, and the first one is sastra English. So it's very struggling. It's very struggling us for us who to to learn about the other language, the foreign language. So here I will going to talk to you about the justifications behind our decisions to rewire the human brain to speak one common language. And second, I will going to talk to you the future impact on this proposal motion. So first, I'm going to talk to you about the justification. What we mean here is about the equal opportunities. Like when you see like the requirements for you to get a scholarship or to get a high rank in your school is just like you need to mastering English, right? Like when you want to go to abroad to continue your study to the next level, like you need to achieve like 550 minimum to TOEFL scores, and IELTS is just 6.5 and etc. Like um, the opposition is trying to make a standardization based on the language, like when we're going to work in the international organizations, like where you should speak English. No, you need to see people based on their potential. What we mean potential here is what kind of job they can do, what kind of other skills they can do, not just about language, because we've seen that language is something that can make the accessibility become harder. Like when you go to abroad, as I said before, you need to fulfill the minimum scores of TOEFL and IELTS, and it's so problematic for us because, as I said before, not everyone has the capability or the privilege to learn about the other language. It's not every people have the potential to learn the other language. So we see that because of that, it's every humankind in this world have the same starting point where like the people in Indonesia need to learn English, while the people who born in UK doesn't need to do that. So like we think that the justifications behind or mechanism to rewire the human brain to speak in one common language is to erase like the racism or discriminations toward people who can speak the language we want. Like, oh, he can't speak English, so yeah, he's stupid or something like that. Or when he speak English properly, you will say that, oh, he's so English, is not nationalist, and etc. We're seeing that it's not very good in to be happening in our world, where the opposition of the house will make it worsen by like making people need to learn many other languages. So why don't just we set a one common language when which is end up the communication is much easier, and with it leads to my second argument. I'm going to talk to you about the impact in the future. So we believe that by doing rewiring the human brain to speak in the one common language, we think there's no harmful impact will be happen in this in our side of the house. It will make more benefits come to our side of the house. Like the diplomacy, it's such easy, much easier rather comparatively in their side of the house. The communication is much easier. Like when people in India facing the people in the Spanish, they don't need to speak like English, the language they don't know, and so the communication is really easy. The access you get is more easier. You can go abroad to continue study or go to work without you stressing your capability to speak English. Like in the conference or like in the international meeting, like there's so many translators, right? Even the president or prime minister like don't even understand about English, so they need translator. So why don't we just set a one common language so all human in this world can understand it's either in it will make our goal here the easier accessibility is achieved. And that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So now we go to the first speaker of the oppositions, to the case from the oppositions. Time is yours. Here. Don't forget about your timer and your preference for your POI. Thank you.
Okay, hello, am I audible?
Yes, clear.
Okay, if you guys want to have a POI, just unmute and say it once. Timer. Okay, I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Diversity is the spice of life. By rewiring human brain to speak in only one common knowledge, it would cause so much problems that I'm going to explain later. And by supporting language diversity, the There are many advantages of doing so, which I am also going to explain later. By supporting language diversity, we are strengthening people's cultural heritage and therefore their identity. But before moving on to my arguments, I would like to give a few rebuttals to as what the government team said. So there are two main points that they bring is that there are racism and there would be unfairness. And also it would make diplomacy easier and such. Well, with the first argument about racism or discrimination, it is going to be addressed by my second speaker, but now I'm going to move on to unfairness. This does not make sense at all. Their argument is that or learning English or other languages is hard. But this doesn't make sense at all because by your logic, it is the same that, for example, if people couldn't master a certain skill, for example, they couldn't learn math, and so we need to put math on their brain so it would be fair. It doesn't make sense at all because all of people need to learn and that's how society works. Also, about unfairness, they ignore the fact that these languages, these unique languages, protect people from their jobs and so much more. For example, the, for example, such as English teachers, German teachers, and translators, and so much more. These people rely on these unique languages, these complex languages to have their job. And so by removing all languages, it would harm these people the most. And so you are ignoring the fact that it's that. And also, secondly, you're ignoring the fact that languages are also an important part of culture and religion. Many religions all around the world rely on their language and they believe that it is the way to communicate to their God. Also, cultures that have developed from hundreds and hundreds of years use their rituals and such using their unique languages. And so by deleting all languages, it would harm these cultures. Thirdly, you said that it would make diplomacy easier. But if we speak in the status quo right now, it is enough because with current technologies, communication is as easier as ever. And if we compare the harm, then obviously by erasing all those languages, it will create more harm than good. So now I'm going to move on to my problems and arguments. And so currently there are hundreds of unique languages that exist in the world. These languages do not divide people in two. In fact, it brings people together. Language has been an important role for humanity. It has created cultures and heritages, and by rewiring everyone to speak that one language, it would erase this beautiful cultures and heritage. Language are a part of someone's identity. By erasing these differences, it would erase the identity of millions and billions of people all around the world. Government would probably say that language barrier exists and that's their only argument. But this is not a big problem at all because as we can see currently, there are so many technologies such as Google Translate and also automatic translators that could easily translate other people's languages. And these technologies in a status quo as we speak is enough to counter that language barrier. So our goal as opposition is to preserve the culture and heritage of thousands of cultures, and hence we wouldn't like the government to rewire everyone's brain to speak only one language. We don't want people to lose their cultural independence and in many cases their spirituality, all of which go hand in hand with language. For example, in the religion of Islam, spirituality is represented in Arab. And so by essentially making everyone only speak one language, it would disturb these cultures and religions. It is language that makes our life more colorful and amazing, hence why we shouldn't let the government rewire the human brain. So, as I stated before, there are so much language in the world, and that what makes people unique. They show us the diversity of people all around the world, although there are some barriers when communicating with other people. As we mentioned before, these technologies are so enough. And so now, today, it is so easy to go to foreign places and also visit different cultures and learn about different cultures because of these technologies. So every country has its own languages. These languages are their pride and identity. By erasing their language and rewiring their brain to speak only one language, it will erase their identity. Language has a rich history and also has contributed to that country as a whole. Obviously, we wouldn't accept the fact that their pride or their identity would be erased from existence. Rewiring these languages are also bad because it destroys the border of each country because plenty of jobs require languages, for example, such as teachers, and so much more jobs would be gone, and it would enrage these people because it would seem unfair. Currently, countries give more benefit towards their own workers because of language, and they would support their native workers because they have they have these languages that they could communicate with. If we erase all languages, then it would mean people from other countries could invade those countries and they would take their workforce. So it would be disadvantageous for these workers. So my arguments are, firstly, language is a part of culture, and so erasing it is wrong. Language and cultures are interactions. Languages can make cultures more diverse, and cultures bring such more advantages to countries. For example, like tourism. And all languages are thoughts and emotion. And so it is these many languages are so important because it brings people from other cultures together, and also it it shows that humans have different views in the world and different way of thinking and approaching problems. And so that's why it is really important to preserve these languages. Also, there are many religions and cultures that rely on their language to do ceremonies. These languages are a way of communicating on their gods and all. For example, there are many important, significant traditional ceremonies that have prayers from specific languages. By changing languages, it will erase all of this religion and tradition. And because of this, it is important to preserve. Also, in many places around the world, as we can see right now, there are no problem in language barrier. For example, in Bali, people just freely speak what they want there. And so there are no problems there. And so it is wrong to force these people to change their language. And also, the importance of language barriers, it will also protect immigration, will be explained by my second and third speaker, because mass immigration would happen, because now the accessibility of these languages would erase the barriers of each country, and then people could just flood to other countries anywhere they want. And this will be dangerous for those countries and other countries also. And so these languages protect other people from mass immigration and these other stuff. So to conclude, we believe that we shouldn't rewire people's brain. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So now let's continue the case from the government side of the House. For the second speaker of the government side of the House, time is yours. He here.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, I'm gonna start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so first of all, they state about the diversity of the language is related to the cultural itself. But we do believe even if there's only one common language, it's not gonna change the cultural. It's not because cultural is not all about language. Like your customs. When there's only one language, it doesn't change the meaning of your culture. And also, if it's not gonna change the meaning of your religion itself. We only change the language itself, but the main point of you do the culture is still there. And also, we would like to question the opposition team why you set the language for standard of the diversity itself, because we do believe that diversity have so much means. Diversity is not all about language. Example like diversity of the culture itself, like your skin, like your hair, and your custom itself is different. But the thing is, it's not all about the language itself. You the moral of the religion itself, the moral of the culture itself, is still exists there. You only changing the language itself. And also second response that he state that the current technology is enough, like Google Translate or other translator app. But we deny this because it's not effective. Like sometimes Google Translate are wrong translating the words itself. Sometimes you don't know how to spell the language, and you just randomly type it on your phone. But sometimes no thank you, but no thank you. But sometimes every single object has a different meaning. So it could cause wrong wrong translating from those apps itself. Move to my argument. What word that we want to look like first language is a very basic common things that need to be mastered because it is related to so many aspects when you communicate, like when you do discussion, studying, meeting, and etc. Why it is better to speak up in one common language? Because it will make an easier accessibility in so many aspects. Like it will make us able to communicate with people around the world that will open up a great opportunities for work, learning, and human relationships. Meanwhile, um, how? Because we see that not all people are able to learn about the language, such as economic limitations, or might be there's people that don't have a platform to learn, or they have a different starting point. Taking example of this person is smart, having a skill in mathematics or uh, economic, but this person cannot tell. Uh, no, thank you. This person cannot tell, express, or even explain his idea or innovation that because of the problem of the language itself. Because the other people will not understand what are you thinking, and what are you want to say before you speak up to other person. And also taking another example, that this person has a good score in report cards that the school want to give scholarship to US, but he doesn't able to speak up with the English American language. This person may be fail or lose these opportunities because he will think that he get a trouble for communication, that he will consider that he cannot understand about the lesson, what the teacher are saying, what the teacher are explain to us, or even what the books tell us, because because we see that in the status quo right now, there's so many people that have potential to become success. For example, looking for a job, but he not capable to speak up in English, and he lose the chance to get accept in the company itself. That's why it is more efficient, and it will benefiting our people if we only speak up in one common language. Because uh, look the comparison of the total of the translator and also our society in the world. Like this is a very significant problem because when you example, like when you go holiday or vacation to other country, that you are not able to speak up on on that country language, it means that you will have a trouble when you try to communicate. You might be could reserve a translator, but not all people are able to reserve a translator because of the budget to reserve that translator. Second point is about the racism. People like to mock you if you cannot speak example in English. Notice that it takes a long time and long progress to learn about language. There's so many like verb, vocabulary, structure, and etc. That might be create a chaos, a problem. Example like example like we're talking to other person, but other person judge that our vocabulary or structure is wrong, but we think our structure and our vocabulary is wrong. uh, it will create a problem that um, that it will take a very long time for you to learn. And even if you say that you are able to speak up in English language, but it doesn't mean that you are able in that you understand all of the meaning in English language, like like my previous speaker already stated to you. And we do believe that it will more efficient and it will be more practice if we speak up in one common language in all aspects. Like my previous speaker tell you, when there's a discussions, but you didn't understand what the other people say to you, what the other people talking, and you just silence because you don't understand it. Because we do believe that even if you have a Google Translate, but it doesn't enough. Because uh, how if there's people from that, because people have a different starting point, like in the pedesaan, they don't have a mobile phone or etc. So So it means that they don't have this application or translator applications, or even they cannot have the teacher to teach them about this language. So we do believe that in our side, it will be more efficient if we only speak up in one common language, because the other people, because there's so many people that have potential in like their education, that in their work or etc. They could be success if they only could speak up. It will be more easier for them if they are able to speak up in one common language, so everyone will understand what are this person saying. Maybe that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So to communicate from the positions, please welcome the second speaker of the positions here. Here.
So I will start my speech in 1, 2, 3. Ladies and gentlemen, language is not just how hard the language barrier it is, but it's more involved many things such as the religions, cultures, and the fair styles that I will explain later. First of all, they mentions about the racism. The language barrier can make a racism, but we said it's invalid because racism also comes in the first place because of difference here historicals, its ethnic and the race. For examples, I will give you examples in English nations such as there are discriminations of black people and white people, but they also have spoken the same language English. Then tell me why there is many races to the black people, because white people still have the conservative mind that thinks that black people have to be slave, and this is and we say that the language not give the racism. Even things you give the examples of the mocking is not the racism, okay? And first of all, they say it's about the equal rights. We say that the equal rights will achieve in our mechanism, because the equal rights we want to give is that the equal to have trying hard to how to learn English, and want the equal that you how struggles that you want to waste your money and your time to learn, that don't brings and that we mean about the equal rights, okay? And they say about the struggles to learn the language. We say that it is a common issue that this we have to struggle to learn English. Then if they goals about the accessibles, then why, for example, the education is also makes the accessibles for the switching the opinions, right? For making the new innovations. Then why the nations can just the rewire the brains of the society with the maths or the science that will more improve their own feasibility. And first of all, they say about the impacts to the future. They say about the diplomatic is more easier. I will echo about that. Then how you to prove then how you to prove that the status quo is enough right now? There's so many British policy that occur in our diplomations, and then they use the translations, and it's so enough. For example, let's see Africans and China relationship. They have a different language, but they can make America is worried about their relationship, and Africa can improve their economics and the military base. So we say that the language is not the language can bear the impacts of the diplomatic. And they say about, you talk about people are most able, how about the people that not have to accessibles? And we assuming it's for example indigenous peoples or the rural people, because we says that they don't have the access feature, but you force them to rewire the language paper is not the justify. Why? Because they themselves, what they need for in the first place, they need the education for the place. If they can reach the educations in, for example, in the national scale, how you force them to rewire the English the language skills and force them to face the globalization that I will explain later. First of all, I will say that it's harm if just for the one common language. For example, the stakeholder is the people who study the different language of the have been the language artists. We know that they have make the masterpiece artists the W.S. Renda that are famous in the other country that his poem can be exclusive. You can see in the other country, and this is because of the different language. If this your mechanism exists, all the language artists around the world has disappeared. There's no more education Indonesian artists or the other countries exist, but only in the just one statement that is an English artist, and many artists can enjoy it because they feel that's all the plain and there's no improvement with their language artists inside, because every poem have the same rhyme, every poem have the slang word, every poem have the same metaphor, and there's no the historic, there's no the beauty of it. And the second one is the people around the world. Globalization in the status quo right now, there's a competitive is high, right? And then it makes you to study our language. Then why you when what's the matter of the study in the language? We have to study all the time, right? And because you have to study, then you have to go to the country, for example, and learn to go to the society. Then it will improve the solidarity of themselves, because you have to connect it and do the face to face with all peoples in the local peoples. And why? Because they can feel the diversity at first, and they can feel how proud they are when they can be learn the language with their struggles, and they will get the social rewards. For example, in such as YouTubers Vikinaki that can gain more popularity and get money because of learning language. We means that the different language is more effective, for example, for your economy, right? And it also happen in the political relationship and internal relationship. For example, when Trump to go to the India for deciding the relationship, many Indians that with the Western media that says that Trump is not good, but when the Trump greeting opens his speech with the Indians greeting, many Indians change their mind and welcome the Trump, and it happens because there are many 100,000 Indians comes when the Trump's speeches. And about the entertainment strategy, we say that it's good for the entertainment strategy in the different language. For example, when EXO says terima kasih, or Siwon says himself as Mas Bambang, he can improve their popularity, not only the Korean itself, but Indonesian itself, because Indonesian feel the pride. And of course, it can be the mutualisms for our artists, for examples like Agnes Mo. Agnes Mo can speak many languages that it's from her struggles, not from the rewire. That's a difference of the struggles in the rewire. And then about the globalization right now, there's a language barrier, right? And so the language barrier means that you are not just enough to educated or high quality, but you have to be smart to learn about the other's language. We say it is justified, but when just the common language, it means whether you are educated or uneducated, you still can have to connect and have the language privilege. In our world, it will come to be, for example, there are many resources in natural resources, or many regions that have natural resources such that many forest infestations wants to come. For example, is forest workers in Indonesia. There are many forest workers in Indonesia, but imagine if this implements, then what is the requirements of the limited? What is the requirement of Indonesians speaking struggles for implemented in the forest workers will be disappear, right? So then Indonesian people will have to be war with the decreasing of the job vacancy, because we have to admit that many people in Indonesia that don't have the high quality, and Indonesia itself still putting effort on it. When this implements, not all the country will not be ready. For example, for Indonesia, then will be the more occurs the problems such as unemployment and the others. So we oppose these motions. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, so we proceed to the third speaker of the government of the House to communicate from the government. For the third speaker of the government, time is yours. Here.
Wait, Kak, I need to fix my microphone first.
Hello, am I audible? Hello?
Yes, you are.
Oh, so I'm going to start my speech. I will
Sebentar, sebentar. Ada kerebek-kerebek.
Oh, cool.
Sama suaranya agak kecil.
Hello?
Okay, clear.
Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay. Uh, so I'm going to start my speech. I prepare POI. You just submit yourself and say POI. Uh, yeah, and my gender pronouns is he or him. So I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, under this motion, we should consider which one of our argument that should be implemented in cause of others' arguments. Right? We believe that in this motion, under this motion, we should more prioritize of efficiencies because it is more a general thing rather than preserving for cultural heritage and diversity, for example. Before I'm going to my extensions, let me give some rebuttals to the opposition side of the house. First, they state that if they acting as the opposition side of the house, firstly they should prove to us that if we make human to speak in one common language, it will bring us more harm, right? Their first reason that this could bring more harms because they said that this language is as a diversity, right? We believe that this diversity would this is diversity that create problem in the very first place, right? My first speaker already said to you that there is a problem that created by this diversity of the language, such as a barrier in the communications, right? They maybe think that this language is a part of their cultural heritage and this is a part of their diversity, but we want to ask them, what is your parameter what is your parameter of diversity? For example, diversity is not about language, right? My first and second speaker already said to you, diversity could be the race, could be the skin color, or could be the country, right? So yes.
If you see that diversity is not just in one in one language, by making them in one language, it doesn't affect racism at all because there's so many diversity. There's so many any diversity like race. So you just like you say that diversity is not important. So by bearing it,
No,
so
no,
by
no, no, no. What I mean,
doesn't.
we didn't make any diversity gone. We just don't make this language as diversity because it causes many more problems, right? We believe that this diversity is already exists in our side of the house. We need to sacrifice this diversity in the language to gain more efficiency for us to communicate, right? And they also state that this is a cultural heritage and this is a person pride and identity. And I want to ask you, how important is your language as your identity, right? It doesn't mean if you speak English, your identity is an English, right? You as long as you live in Indonesia, it is enough to prove to you that your identity is from Indonesia. So the problem that the pride and identity that they brought that will be disappeared is not exist in our side of the house. They also trying to convince us there is no problem in the status quo. The accessibility of language and communication is already enough in the status quo. But we believe that this is not enough. Why? Because they assume their second speaker assume that every layer of society has the same economic background and there has the same privilege. Then they generalize all the society as the same, right? But we believe that how about the people that didn't have a privilege to learn this language, right? They state that
they can learn this language, and this is something normal. But we believe that like every language have a different difficulties, right? And not all of our layer of society have the privilege to learn this kind of language. Meanwhile, in our side of the house, we didn't need we didn't need to learn any of those language, because we have this one common language with which we believe that we can we could achieve our goal as easier accessibility to speech and efficiency. And they state, if all people in the world speak in one common language, it would be bad, because it would create it would cause a mass immigration, right? But the thing you need to realize here, language is not the one who rule accessibility for people to go to outside and immigrate, right? There is still a law that there is still a law that rule these immigrations, right? So your argument about immigration caused by the language is not is really assumptive. It's really assumptive, because you didn't consider about the law that already implemented in the real world, right? Because and you also bring up the idea of entertainment and others and other stuff again and again. We should really sacrifice something that didn't really important for to achieve our goal and to achieve efficiency in our side of the house. So our thesis in this debate is whether or not making a human brain to speak in one common language bring more harm than good. We believe that in our side of the house, it is better for us to make people all people to speak in one common language. Why? Because my first speaker already said to you that language is important, right? Language is a basic thing for communicating, right? And language is something to enhance understanding of things, right? My first speaker also already said to us, I already said to us all, what is our goal, right? Our goal is clear, is to easier accessibility to speech, right? We acknowledge that the problem here, the problem that is occurred here is when language as a barrier for communicating, right? And the second problem is problem that created by misunderstanding or misunderstanding. Notice that many of the problem, or many of other countries problem is caused by a misunderstanding of the language, right? This is something very crucial that we need to solve by making them speaking in one common language, so that the communication would flow greatly. And the third problem is language as a barrier for skills to shine. What I mean by this is let's take an example of the student in Indonesia that want to study abroad, for example, to go to Japan, for example. If they didn't want, if he or she cannot speak Japan, it will close the probability for them to study abroad, right? So we didn't want this to happen. And I want to bring you the comparison why in our side of the house, what is the word in our side of the house, in their side of the house. Firstly, in their side of the house, they could maintain diversity like they said, right? But they preserve the diversity at the cost of communications, right? Meanwhile, in our side of the house, we still have diversity in other aspects and a better communication in our side of the house. The second comparison is what happened of the people without the privilege in their side of the house. How can they reach people without privilege in their side of the house to learn other language, right? Meanwhile, in our side of the house, it is better since we didn't need any proposal or program, since our people are talking in the same language, right? We believe that this will bring more benefit in our side of the house than their side of the house. Plus, they said there is a program that is Google Translate, right? Meanwhile, in our side of the house, we already achieved these efficiencies, right? So we didn't need those things. And we already acknowledge that Google Translate in the status quo is not enough. It's not enough to fulfill the needs of the demand of the society from communicating, right? It is impossible for us. To use Google Translate all the time. Plus, there is more people that didn't have privilege to use Google Translate. So we, as the government side of the house, were proud to propose. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you. So now to close the case from the opposition, please welcome the third speaker of oppositions. Here.
I'm gonna begin my speech at 3, 2, 1. First of all, I'm gonna show you that this is we should not do that because it is unjustified. Why? They first justification why we should do this one common language is because they want to erase racism. They want to give accessibility, but we're gonna show that this is not gonna have influence at all. Racism, language got nothing to do with racism. He stated by himself that even though you can speak English, you still be an Indonesian. It means if like Habibi go to German, he can speak German, but people actually keep underestimated him. It shows that even though you can speak English, you can speak German, you can speak Paris, you can still get racism. So by making one common language, imagine I already can do Indonesian. I go to English, people would still judge me. People would still racist me. They would still say this is Asian people and it's just dumb and things like that. So it actually doesn't solve any problem that they stated. And they say that privilege and they want to give fair accessibility. They want to every people can speak English, but they like discredit. They discrediting people who are can learn, because it's not about privilege or unprivileged. By learning those stuff, it doesn't mean if you can speak English because you are privileged. No, because you are hardworking, you are smart. So it's not about privilege and not privilege. By saying that thing, you actually really discredit people effort, because all of because it doesn't have correlation about accessibility, because in status quo the accessibility of learning is really enough. Even though you don't have any money, you can still trying to learn a language, because there is so many people out there who are come from lower class, and they are not very genius like Einstein, but they could still manage to speak several language. It shows that the status quo, the accessibility in status quo is enough, and this is not really. And the government side of the house already failed to explain why this is very urgent to do this right now, because we have so many things. They study about the tourism, but in tourism you could have a tour guide. If you want to go diplomacy, you can see right now UN full of people from other countries and full of different language. They can still communicate because there are someone who called interpreter right now in status quo. So we can see right now that this is very the government has failed to explain why this is very urgent to do, when there is so much thing that would when this is cause so much harm to our status quo right now. Why? And secondly, they are not static mechanism very clear. They not say how could they guarantee that this country, especially the country with pride of their language like South Korea, Japan, China, who doesn't even wanted people to they even in their country they don't want their society learn English. How could you encouraging them to waste that pride? How could you want them to speak only English? Because this language really meant to them. It is very important, and also the language it represent of nationalism. As you know, Sumpah Pemuda number 3 is about language. How could you push Indonesia to use English when the turning point of their own kemerdekaan on their freedom is based on the essence, based on the importance of their language? And this you have neglect the importance of the language, the pride that this language has. And how about and this so in your mechanism, how about the indigenous people, Badui people? How could you encourage them to learn English? It doesn't. Your mechanism is really only generalize them like, oh, these people will want it, but you don't even care about those people who will say no with this proposal, and you don't even have any solution with that. So yeah, in this we want, and I'm gonna explain to you that by doing this motion is actually bring more harm than good. Every benefit that the government has stated is really we can achieve it by not doing this motion, like communication. Right now in the status quo, everything is all right. There are interpreter, there are Google Translate, there are tour guide. If you want to learn a book, a guidebook from other countries. There are people who will translate it. There's so many accessibility, and so it's really unnecessary to do this. And and they study, if you want to go abroad, it will really make it easier. Is it is the pride of the country. Imagine if you go to Japan. Of course, Japan doesn't want any. Of course, Japan will prioritize their own student, their native student. That's why they have language barrier, which is Japan, which is they have to speak Japanese. That is very important for this country to have language barriers, because it's the way they protect their workers, their students. It's the way they are protect these people from from unfair competitiveness. And I'm gonna show you the harm that. So yeah, so the good benefit they stated is already everything is invalid. And you can and I will making sure about the bad things. They say entertainment is not really necessary. While entertainment really depends on the essence, on the beauty of language. When you are learning, when you are a language, it's not just like language literary, but in that language there are essence of beauty, there are uniqueness, there are culture. Imagine in Indonesia we have pantun, we have syair, we have sajak that have meaning. This is a knowledge. If you erase them all, you erase a knowledge, and it's not a really petty, like you already said. It's we can sacrifice them. And there's Shakespeare with his own language. You want to reduce it, and you're like. And every movie, there are theater who bring a historical theme, like maybe about the World War II. You need a different language to make it all feeling, to represent the movie itself. Like you want to make documentary movie about the past, you need, or about one culture, you really need to consider the language, because that's the importance of language that you really neglect. You said that even though you are you still Indonesian, even though you can speak English. Yes, it is, but it is hold an important role in ourselves. I mean, there are so many other there are so many heritage that made it Indonesian. And you neglect about cultural religion ceremony. Islam doesn't let people. It's not just a word doesn't consist only with Christian. There are Hinduism who use more use Sanskerta language. There are Islam who must use Arab language. How could you manage that? And about entertainment, about film, about movies, and there's so many language represent movie. Like there are so many like Java film who bring Java culture. You need to Java, and how could you? There are reserved people, and that's why we conclude that we shouldn't do this. We strongly oppose.
Thank you very much for the speech. So now we would like to close the debate from the opposition side of the house. So I call the replaced speaker of opposition. Time is yours. He here.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Side government has ignored the fact that our world are currently shaped because of the diversity of languages. There are so many things that language has created. So now I'm going to analyze the points of clashes in our debate, which is firstly the accessibility of language. We have said that language is not a barrier at all currently in the world. We have given the fact that there are so many technologies and ways to translate languages, such as translators and these people. Also, their arguments are also quite shallow. They keep worrying about the indigenous people who are struggling to communicate with other people. But this could be easily solved without dissolving cultures all around the world, because those people, they could be just easily educated, and these education could be provided by their original language. And so this has toppled their argument. And also, they keep stating the fact that racism will happen because of language diversity. And so we have proven to you that racism is not stemmed from language. We have proven to you that panels that racism stems from history and a different mindset. We have given to you the example of African American and Caucasian American racism issues. This shows that racism wouldn't be affected by the difference of language. They have also said that diplomatic issues would be easier if everyone have one language. But we have given to you this status quo right now. What is happening in today's day and age that uh, that these technologies and these way of communicating are more than enough. We have given the fact about other countries have been developing policies, international policies, for example, like China and Africa, that could easily establish diplomatic relations without any problems regarding their language barrier. Government has also ignored the fact that there are so many jobs that stems from the diversity of language. For example, like teachers and also translators and also guides and so much more people. And so by erasing um, these these languages, then it would harm them. But they don't address these people at all. They also said that by changing languages into one, it will create equal rights. But we have addressed this because equal rights have no correlation with language. We have proven that language is not a privilege. Studying language needs hard work and effort, so that is not a privilege. A privilege, we have explained to you that a privilege is something that benefits you, that benefits a race, and other people couldn't do anything without that to decrease this privilege. And so this argument is flawed. Other than that, our government has not also provide a reason on how this would create, on how they would address the conflicts that would happen all over the world. Because obviously different countries hold their pride on their language. They also don't tell us how to solve these countries from protesting that their language is not the one that is used universally. We have proven to you that culture and religion is heavily connected to language. They keep ignoring the fact that religious and traditional cultures use this language to connect spiritually to their God. That is how they fundamentally speak spirituality. And they have the audacity to say that these languages aren't correlated with their traditions. We have proven to you that countless Bibles all around the world have specific languages because it's their history. And by eliminating other languages, it would delete this. They also don't address the fact that language differences would not help protect workers from foreign workers, like from foreign workers invasion. We have addressed the fact that languages differences would benefit local workers, and they don't engage with this argument at all. We believe that we have toppled down all opposition arguments, and so panels, please consider our side heavily. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So to close the debate from the government side of the House, please welcome the Vice Speaker of the government. Time is yours. He here.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
I'm gonna start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so first of all, I would like to give comparisons for both teams. In opposition team, we want to question why the different language or more than one language not gonna give problem. Which in our side we already tell you that that the language is a very important things that we need to understand, because like my previous speaker already bring to you the problem if we not understand the language itself. Like it is harder for you to study. Like if you didn't understand the language, right? Example, like there's a book, but the book is right in English language, and you didn't understand about English language. So how could you understand about the language itself? It will be more efficient and easier for you if you if we only use one language, so all of the people could understand about it. And also second point that we want to ask that how it will benefiting all layer of society which has different economic background and also different access, because how it will give privilege to all society. Meanwhile, in our side, we already said to you that not all people are able to achieve the, educations, or even they and also how what will happen in the people in the rural area, like poor people. How could they learn English if they don't have enough money to to go to school to learn about the language itself. And the third one, the stating about the pride itself, that has been rebutted by my third speaker, because it doesn't mean uh, the moment you speak up in English language, uh, it doesn't mean you lose your pride, because you are still Indonesian people. You could, for example, like represent Indonesia in other country in the competitions of English. It doesn't mean you lose your pride itself. And also fourth, they state that the status quo is already enough by there's a Google translator and etc. But we do believe that it is not enough, because in their side they didn't consider the fate of the people that live in the rural area. They didn't have phone. They didn't have a good connection, for example, to translate what people are saying. It will more efficient in our side, because without any Google Translate, without other people translate to you, you already understand what other people say to you. So and we do believe that we see that the capacity of the translator itself is not as much as the people uh, that don't understand the English language, for instance. Like we would like to ask the opposition team that are 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 there enough capacity? Are there enough translator to translate each person that didn't understand about English language? Because we do believe that it will be easier, and it will be more efficient if you already understand about the language itself. Like when you talk to other, you don't need to use your Google Translate, for instance, to translate what other people said, because we do believe we already bring case that even the Google Translate could miss translating what other people say. Like every words have a different meaning, every sentences have a different meaning. So we do believe that it is not enough and it's not efficient. And next, we would like to point out that what makes culture exclusive in their side, because we do believe that culture is not all about the language itself. In our side, we already explained to you why speak up in one common language will not miss the main value of the culture itself. It's not gonna change the meaning of the religion itself. And we do believe that this is more important things to achieve. That's why you should vote for us.
Thank you very much. So that's the end of our semifinal round. This is a silent round, so all debaters, please proceed to the main room, because this paper will be used by the adjudicators to have voting and deliberations towards the winner of the team. If after the announcement you would like to have upward explanations or personal